sharing Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to DurianASEAN.com, the voice of discovery and sharing. This is Gowri.
Good morning, this is Grace.
And we are here today, of course, on our ASEAN Daily segment to bring you news from all over Southeast Asia, as well as some important headlines a bit outside of Asia and some important local news as well. And today's a Friday. I hope everyone out there is excited as we are.
Yeah, we are very excited because today is a very special day for us. And then all this radio-related station will be celebrating World Radio Day.
Yeah, that's right. But unfortunately, we will not be throwing a party or anything. Maybe next time.
Well, it's not a public holiday. It's just to celebrate the how radio has been served to the public so far. And then actually the first World Radio Day was officially celebrated in 2012. So it's pretty recent. But then over 100 years old, the radio has served for many purposes, for exchanging information, educating people, and even they saved we saved the world by warning regarding the natural disaster and then a lot of events.
And even back in Malaysia during the Japanese occupation, radio was a very, very important medium back then for them to get all the latest updates about the whereabouts of these people and in terms of when you want to go into hiding, which is the safest place. And a lot of people communicate through that as well by using secret codes and whatnot. So if you guys want to drop us a token of appreciation, feel free to drop by at the office. We will all be around today. And
or to leave us the feedback
sure.
on social media regarding anything to do with the Radio Day today. So we'll be glad to receive your responses.
And moving on to something that is a bit saddening. It's also another news. We keep having a lot of news that sparks not just a local outrage, but on an ASEAN level as well. All the other Southeast Asian countries, of course, we are usually curious about what's happening in our neighboring countries, especially in all the 10 countries in this region. And another important thing that happened yesterday, a very sad thing, is of course the passing of Nik Aziz, who is 84 years old, and he's the former Kelantan Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Nik Aziz Nikmat. He passed away on Thursday, which was just last night at about 9:45 p.m.
And Datuk Nik Abdul Aziz Nikmat was one of those rare politician figure who was accepted and respected by the wide spectrum of Malaysians. He supported many ideas and opinions that were actually against the government. However, he had a different approach and perspectives to certain areas and ideas, so that's when he has gained a lot of credibility from the public.
And his death also means that there will be a by-election happening soon enough. And the election commission, of course, will have to get the ball rolling on this matter. And actually, his passing has saddened a lot of people, a lot of Malaysians as well, who were kind of dampened by the fact that the PKR leader just went to jail, and now we have the past spiritual leader who passed away, and it's kind of a sad week for a lot of Malaysians. And it seems that Nik Aziz actually led the Kelantan past government for 23 years up until 2013 when he stepped down, and he's been succeeded by Dato' Ahmad Yaakob. And the thing about Nik Aziz is he's not only popular with Muslims, he's also very popular with the non-Muslims for reasons that you were just mentioning just now about his ideas, his approach to doing things and all. And he even supporters of the federal opposition Pakatan Rakyat, even supporters of other parties, they all have very fond memories of Nick Aziz, and they respect him a lot as a person. And even a lot of politicians have come up to say that Nick Aziz is an amazing man with an amazing personality and ideas, and it's so sad that he has already passed on.
Yes, like you mentioned, that he is the best remembered for being the longest serving Menteri Besar for Kelantan from 1990 to 2013, and also for leading past to respected states from Barisan Nasional in 1990. And he was also one of the few Malaysian Muslim leaders to openly support the right of non-Muslim to use the term Allah.
And that is, of course, another controversial topic in our country. And a little fun fact, a little facts about his full name, which is Datuk Bentara Nik Abdul Aziz Nikmat. He was born on January 10, 1931, and he leaves behind 10 children, actually, including Nik Abdul, his son, who is currently the Pasir Mas MP. And succeeded Yusuf Rawa as the spiritual leader just before him of PAS in 1991, and he's currently the Chempaka Assemblyman, so that's where the ballot elections are going to take place. And apart from that, he was also able to converse in Arabic, English, Tamil, and Urdu. He can speak 4 languages. Usually when you're Malaysian, you tend to speak more than 1 or 2 languages. It's pretty normal, but he actually speaks. He can converse in Urdu itself, which is very uncommon for a Malaysian.
And that also shows how linguistic he was and knowledgeable he was in terms of understanding the languages.
So those who want to pay your final respects to Datuk Nik Aziz, actually the funeral will be held today. It's at 10 a.m. on Friday at the Tok Guru Mosque in Pulau Melaka, Kelantan. So hopefully he rests in peace, and whoever takes after him will continue his legacy and deliver the promises to the people like what he did while he was in charge. And another thing that's also an update to what happened yesterday, another news that was also a very, very popular, very hot in Southeast Asia, is the story of the 6 inmates in Taiwan who took the prison staff as a hostage.
And then 6 prisoners at the Southern Taiwan jail committed suicide, ending the staff off after they took several staff hostage, like you said, to complain about the unfair trial and also demand their freedom.
So the root of this issue is, of course, the unfair trial, and they are trying to demand their freedom, and because of that they took these prisoners into hostage. But the plan actually didn't quite work out. There were a lot of negotiations that happened, but they did not agree to any of it, and the authorities refused to budge as well. So eventually they just gave up and end up committing suicide. That was their resolution to that problem.
Well, there are a lot of people who are against the idea of, who are for the idea of having the freedom in their country, and some of them are quite rebellious, and these are one of the examples. And then, like you said, the plan was not executed quite well, that they just ended up killing themselves instead of sending messages to the government clearly about themselves. So this unfair trial and a complaint, that their jail terms were pretty long at the same time.
So the chief of the ministry's corrections agency, who is Wu Xianchang, actually said, "We tried to use all kinds of means to persuade them to release the hostages, and they were trying their best to look for a peaceful ending and to prevent any unfortunate situation. But of course the 6 people took their lives, and like we mentioned earlier, this is about unfair trials, and you just talked about freedom in the country. But when it comes to an inmate situation, it's always very tricky. I remember reading a statistic saying that almost 60% of the people in jail are actually jailed for the wrong reasons, and they had an unfair trial, or they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And when these people get indicted and they go to jail, how exactly do they prove their innocence behind the bars is something that's very tricky, and it can be very overwhelming, of course, and could drive them to do something as drastic as taking hostages in prison itself.
Yeah, you're right. Perhaps the 60% of the people who could be very innocent, and also they're just there because of the wrong reasons. However, it doesn't only happen in Taiwan, but also in Philippines, and a lot of like street kids are left out because of that reason. Because most of their parents are in jail for some reason or wrong reasons. But in this case, in Taiwan, the ringleader, who was known as the head of the Kaohsiung branch of the notorious mafia type organization, and also was serving a 28-year sentence for murder. So those are the cases that what happened to this event recently, and they also demanded the safe passage from the prison while holding the warden Chen Si-chi and also head guard Wang Si-xiang after the pair offered to swap themselves for earlier hostages.
And it seems that one of the inmates was actually paroled and described as a political prisoner, according to Cheng, who complained that the Taiwan's former president was sentenced for 20-year graft, was given parole and medical treatment last month. So that seemed unfair to him as well, because they were both inmates. They were both there, albeit for different reasons. It seems that one person was getting the benefit that the other one wasn't getting, and that also prompted them to resort to something so drastic as to taking hostages.
But do you think this kind of event will actually teach the lesson to the prisons or to the government, and what they would try to convey the message?
Probably not so much about the prison, but it always has to go back to the court itself, because that's where all the decisions are made. Because once the judge has passed you a sentence, there's really nothing that anyone else can do about it, especially if you're already in prison. So but this will probably be a wake-up call for probably the Justice Ministry of Taiwan and how they handle the cases, and also the warden of the jail, to make sure that they don't have unfair treatments for the inmates. If one person is getting a certain benefit, all the others should be entitled to the same rights, the same benefits as well, because once you're in jail, you're in jail. You're an inmate. It doesn't matter who you are. You commit a crime, that's where you go. And it seems that apart from the mafia leader that you mentioned, others were charged for other crimes like murder, robbery, and drugs. And they broke into a weapons storage room and obtained their handguns from there. So hopefully this will help to be a wake-up call for the prison wardens and also to the Justice Ministry in Taiwan to handle better their cases, and also to ensure equal treatment for all their inmates. So we will take a short break. When we come back, we will bring you more issues from Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies, first and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hello and welcome back to Durant ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. This is Gowri.
And you are still with Grace.
And this is still our ASEAN Daily, where we bring our listeners news from all over Southeast Asia. And we are going to resume after the break. And we have something very important as well that happened. Although it's not really in Asia, we've actually been affected a lot by what's been happening in these two regions. So it's pretty important that we talk about this. It's of course about the ceasefire agreement between Eastern Ukraine after Minsk summit, and the leaders of Germany, France, Ukraine, and Russia have agreed a deal to end the fighting in eastern Ukraine, the participants said on Thursday, which just happened yesterday.
And this discussion has been going on for some time already, and it gave a lot of attentions in a lot of European countries. And finally, it has come to the final decision. However, EU has warned Russia over this Ukraine agreement, and Russia will face fresh sanction from the EU if a deal to end the Ukraine war is not fully implemented. And of course, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, she was the one who warned over this agreement.
And another person who was also there is the French President, François Hollande, who said that there's still much work to be done on the Ukraine crisis, but it's a good step, baby steps for the agreement to take place, and it actually provides a real opportunity for them to work on the situation. As we all know, the Ukraine crisis, like you mentioned, it's not only ongoing, it's also it's been giving us Malaysians a lot of impact as well, especially with what happened with MH17 that got shot down. And of course, we still don't know what happened yet, and we don't want to speculate, but a lot of experts actually point their fingers to the Ukraine crisis, saying that the plane was accidentally shot down, thinking that it actually was another plane belonging to someone else. So we've been waiting for them to come up with some talks and to have a ceasefire, and it of course finally happened yesterday. Merkel, Hollande joined Poroshenko and Putin for a marathon negotiating session. It started out actually on Wednesday evening, and they discussed all night into Thursday morning. And that is something that's very impressive. It's very rare that you have a summit to discuss about things and you have a solution right away. It's usually still in talks, still in discussion. So I'm pretty impressed with the way they handled that. They got to this agreement that so fast.
But then while these high authorities do discuss about all these issues and come up and meet up at the common ground to agree, the clashes between the government forces and the rebel, it continued until Thursday, and one Russian-backed commander, he actually announced that his forces would not stop fighting. So what happened to this Ukraine conflict, just to give a little facts about this, is around 5,000, or actually over 5,000 people killed since the conflict began in April 2014, and around 12,000 or almost reaching 13,000 people wounded across the eastern Ukraine, and 5.2 million people estimated to be living in the conflict areas. And lastly, around 978,000 people internally displaced people within Ukraine, including children as well. So those are the small facts in terms of the human cost.
And the outcome of this Minsk talk will also actually influence EU in a few ways, because when sanctions against Moscow, that was actually on the agenda, and to come up with a deal means that they have to be a lot softer in their approach towards Moscow. And in this case, Merkel and Hollande were expected to arrive late in Brussels for the meeting to talk about how this whole agreement is going to affect EU now, and also come up with a framework for that. And it seems that on the Russian side of the border, Moscow has already begun military exercises in 12 regions involving more than 30 missile regiments. And of course, who else but the United States have also come in to give some statement. They just sort of have to be present in every news that happened, don't you think?
Because US is very influential country to most of the countries around there, and it is very important to be aware for USA as well when it comes to conflict among the nations. And what happened was, I'm just curious here whether there will be a new Russia, or because I believe that there will be only a handful of people who will want to be a part of Ukraine. So even though the agreement is made here, but then all those rebel forces will be continue to hold their checkpoint and positions to see no immediate need to be retreat. And also one of the fighters actually mentioned that he did not trust the other side and to stop shooting. And others have told all the other media agencies that they will carry on fighting in the same name of their fellow soldiers who have been killed.
So what they have to do now is that the main points of the agreement is ceasefire beginning midnight local time 15th of February. So probably that's why they are still heavily armed and still fighting, because they still have like 2 more days to go. And they have to withdraw from all foreign militias from Ukrainian territory and disarm from all the illegal groups. They also have to lift all the restrictions in rebel areas in Ukraine. And also Ukrainian control of the border with Russia will end by 2015. And also another important outcome from this is that all this while our Malaysian government have actually been saying that it's very hard for them to continue their probe about MH17 because of the Ukraine crisis, because of all the fights that's been happening there. So they probably have no more excuse after this, because we've already come to a peace agreement, and all this hostility is supposed to be do away with. And a sticking point was also that the separatist leader who was in Minsk, he actually did not directly take part in the summit, but it seems that Putin will be in charge to reach out to Poroshenko and to directly negotiate with these separatist leaders. And hopefully there's a real chance for to turn things over for Ukraine, because like you mentioned, since it started in 2014, it has killed a lot of people and caused a lot of convenience and also tragedy and impact to other countries, not just in the EU, somehow rather in Asia and Southeast Asia as well. And moving on to, let's go back to Southeast Asia for a bit. We have the ADB lending Vietnam $230 million to boost their competitiveness.
ADB stands for Asian Development Bank, which is extending, like you said, 230 million. The Vietnam ranks 68 out of the 144 countries on this World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index for 2014 and 2015. So it had a slight jump from its 70th place the year before, but then Vietnam is still near the bottom in the Southeast Asia, behind the Thailand, also the Philippines. So this policy, targets the Vietnam structural reform in 6 areas, which is business, environment, public sector, administration, and accountability as well. So this is to basically to strengthen the competitiveness, and will be actually will be critical for Vietnam to maximize the benefit from the global recovery and also countries' continuing economic integration into the world economy.
And the vast majority of Vietnam's 90 million people actually travel on motorcycles, and because of this, the public system will actually be overloaded, and the road users will face very severe congestion during peak hours, especially with the motorcycles and private car numbers increasing. And the ADB signed these 2 loan agreements with Vietnam Central Bank on Monday, according to an ADB news release. And so this will actually help Vietnam a lot, not only in terms of competitiveness, but also to improve themselves in terms of improving their infrastructure, and also, like it's mentioned here, their public transportation system.
Like you mentioned, Vietnam is also one of countries in Southeast Asia that really needs to look at the transportation system as well as the infrastructure. I mean, Indonesia is very well known for having poor infrastructure system, but Vietnam is also not next. A lot of people do ride even bicycles or motorbikes for their public transportation system, and that actually makes the whole lot of traffic even worse. So it's good that something is coming in to boost up their competitiveness against to many other regions in Southeast Asia.
And apart from the roads and buses, they will actually also be using ADB to finance their whole metro rail system, which they call the Project Line 3. And this is also to improve access between stations, to improve the connectivity in the country, because as of now, it seems their metro rail system, although it's there, it's being used, but it's not as efficient. It's not really that convenient for people to get around, and it's not really that reliable to the locals in Vietnam. So with ADB coming in and borrowing their loans, and hopefully Vietnam can actually gain the benefits, reap the benefits from this, and help to boost their transportation system, their infrastructure, and make it easier for the people of Vietnam. So we will take another short break. When we come back, a few more news from Southeast Asia for all our listeners.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning, welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. This is Gowri.
And you're still with Grace.
And we are going to bring you a few more news from Southeast Asia. And we are starting with Thailand. We are going to talk about the dark side of their cosmetic surgery. So usually when we talk about beauty surgery, plastic surgery, there are always two countries that come to mind, which is either Thailand or it's Korea.
Or China.
Or China. So in this case, we are talking about Thailand, of course, and we are referring to Bangkok in specific. And we're talking about this one British woman who was, she believed that she was about to actually undergo a cosmetic operation. But then her wounds became infected and she died under anesthetic as the clinic tried to correct what had gone wrong. So it was supposed to be a very simple procedure. She paid her fees and all. The facility was modern, it was widely used, and the place was even, it had a very good reputation from people overseas and all.
Well, the problem with all these issues behind the cosmetic surgery is whether they really need to double check or even triple check whether doctors is really certified in these areas or not. Because after all, cosmetic surgery, there are surgeries, but then it's also an art. So they really need to take care with the beauty side and as well as the effects that could happen after all.
And it seems that the price that she paid, as in literally the fees for the operation, was only a third of what she would have paid in Europe.
Exactly.
And this goes back to the article or to the writer actually asking, did she actually do her research and find out if the doctor was certified, like you just mentioned? Because there must be a reason why when something is expensive, when something is cheap, of course expensive doesn't always lead to quality, but when something is really, really cheap, there's a reason for that, why people are not demanding for a higher price, and that was something that she overlooked in that sense.
And also not only in Thailand, but like I mentioned, in China also, there are lots of people who really want to sort of enhance their looks, and they go for plastic surgery. And yes, we are all right that South Korea is also very famous for plastic surgery. However, in our nation, we make sure that all those doctors are certified and then at the standard where they give the best quality when it comes to, enhancing one's look. Because like I mentioned, it's not only about the making one person's look beautiful, but it's also about the medical treatment after that. So it's very important, and it has to be treated in detail, a lot of procedures. And Thailand and China and many other countries, they may say that, these countries are way cheaper than to go to South Korea. However, they really, really need to double check before they really want to, well, change their face or even enhance their looks.
And the saddest part about this is, it seems according to this survey, it's very rare for hospitals in Thailand to be successfully sued for medical malpractice, because it's something that it's not really in their regulation, it's not in their policies, and people in Thailand are also not very accustomed to that whole suing process. And because of that, it seems that it's even rarer for the courts itself to award any significant damage to the people, which is also why the doctors there pay much less for insurance than in Europe or US, and that in turn makes her whole medical costs lower. So this is another issue behind why.
That's a very good point, in fact, because having insurance when it comes to medical service is a must procedure. And when you notice that the insurance level is actually lower than you expect, definitely the doctor is not paying so much to pay up for what they are giving all those medical services to their patients.
So I think her family is gonna try and sue the hospital anyway, and we'll have to wait for an update to see whether it comes through or not. Moving on to ASEAN, we are actually on a target here of 95% completion of AEC by end of the year. A bit ambitious, I think.
Very much.
And of course, the AEC is still a work in progress, and the member states, we have set the target now for about 95% completion. And
where's this 5% then?
Yeah, exactly. Why are we leaving out that 5% out? And actually, there is an explanation for that, Grace. The 5% shortfall is actually said to be implemented as a priority measure in 2016. So they are waiting for 2016 because they don't want to lose out that momentum.
All right.
So it's 95% and you put this aside. So when you go into next year, you still have something left, You don't want to just complete the whole process.
So 5% goes for 2016 and the rest of it is for 2015. So that's a big ambition we're talking about. A lot of plans, a lot of implementation has to take place this year, definitely. So this will come with a higher expectation.
Of course, and of course, speaking of ASEAN, together with all the other 10 member states, we will actually be the fourth largest economy in the world, and we are gonna be a force to be reckoned with. We are opening up free market, freer flow of services and goods between the countries. And so as of now, it seems that for the ASEAN-wide Phase 4, which is 2014-2015, we have already implemented about 38%, 82 out of the 200 measures that have been implemented in 2014. And this is said by the Institute and Diplomacy and Foreign Relations Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
As long as it sounds very optimistic, Gowri, here, I need to be a bit sarcastic here also, because, well, especially this week, a lot of things has happened. Especially we have our internal politics, which is Anwar Ibrahim cases, and we still have a problem with our ringgit currency. It's still dropping. With the oil price is still low at the point. But talking about the ASEAN, also AEC, there are a lot of promises going on. And don't you think those are the contracting, pretty contracting to each other? Because one side is very bright, and at the other side we still have a lot of internal problems going on, and they don't seem to be fixed very well. So talking about the economic growth, where are we heading at this point exactly?
So while we're at it, we're going to remember our target of 95%, and review this, of course.
And Gowri is very good at remembering stuff.
Yes, I am. So that will be all for our ASEAN Daily today. We will be back shortly for our Anything Can Happen Friday. We have a very special guest who will be joining us later on. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And before that, do visit our website first, durianasean.com, and then you will have the most of the contents that you will need to see from Durian ASEAN.
So stay tuned to durianasean.com.